Here are the top 10 most expensive American cars of the 90s. I made sure that this list isn't all Cadillac and Lincoln, that would just be boring. With that said, there are definitely cars missing from this list, so be sure to mention them in the comments. If you are new here, I upload weekly every Tuesday, and at the end of every video, I make a tier list of all the cars mentioned. This is where things get a little heated though, because it's 100% opinion based. Before we talk about our first entry, be sure to like the video as it motivates me to try harder and produce the best content for all my viewers. Oldsmobile Aurora, America's oldest automotive brand, needed help. It was losing the battle to the imports. Its audience was getting older. This was Oldsmobile's last-ditch effort to basically save the brand. Up until this point, they really only had boxy cars and they needed a change. The Aurora was their flagship vehicle, offering a sports-tuned suspension, a luxurious interior that featured leather seats with a 6-way power adjustment, and a body styling that was way ahead of its time.
From the first time you see it, you'll know the Aurora is unlike any other luxury sedan on the road today.
On top of that, it was quick thanks to its 4-liter V8 that gave it 250 horsepower, very impressive for the 90s. However, it was too late for the Aurora to save the company, and even though they came out with the second generation, sales numbers weren't there. It wasn't the Aurora's fault. GM just didn't want to put the money into the dying brand. The Oldsmobile lineup was also pretty during this time, and the imports won this battle. Sharing the same G platform is the Buick Park Avenue Ultra. This was Buick's second generation of the massive land yacht, a real highway cruiser with real wooden trim. Now the Park Avenue came in two trim levels, the base and the Ultra. If you got the Ultra, then you got a supercharged V6 that puts out 240 horsepower and 280 foot-pounds of torque. You also got 17-inch chrome wheels and portholes on the side, which really helped distinguish between the Ultra and the Standard. The Park Avenue was Buick's biggest sedan during the time and offered more luxury and comfort than the Century and LeSabre. Although the Park Avenue is front-wheel drive, performance isn't the goal for this car, it's comfort, and with a fully independent suspension and massive leather seats, it was achieved. Chrysler TC by Maserati. There are videos dedicated to this car because there's a lot to it. For some context, Chrysler invested money into Maserati, and the CEO of Chrysler at the time, Lee Iacocca, wanted to create something amazing with them. Chrysler wanted to release this car before the LeBaron, but due to countless issues with both manufacturers, it was released after, which raised lots of questions, as this car is basically a LeBaron that cost so much more. Chrysler claims that they made a new Q platform for this car, but really it was the old K platform with some modifications. TC stands for turbocharged coupe, and while there was a turbocharger in this car, it wasn't even designed by Maserati. Nothing really was. This car had 3 different engines. One of them is basically from a Dodge Caravan, and the other engine, the 3-liter V6, was sourced by Maserati, whatever that means. In 1991, the final year for the car, they sold 1,600 units. The Chrysler TC by Maserati ended up costing the company $600 million, and Lee Iacocca took no responsibility for this disaster.
It's no secret that foreign competitors have been giving American car makers a real beating. About 5 years ago, we decided enough is enough. This is where it stops.
The Cadillac Fleetwood Brougham, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. 20 years the Fleetwood was around, and I feel as if this was one of the few Cadillacs that maintained its reputation. The Brougham package included badging, nicer seats, but most notable was the vinyl top. I believe this package was, I think, an extra $2,000 back in the 90s, and talk about a land yacht, the Fleetwood was longer than the Suburban at the time, and driving one of these felt like nothing, like you're driving on air. A huge positive to the Fleetwood over the town car was this car has air shocks versus air bags. Replacing shocks is a whole lot cheaper than when those bags pop. I recently talked about the Impala SS in my muscle car video. This baby's got the same engine, 5.7 V8 with 260 horsepower and 330 foot-pounds of torque. And this engine, as we know, was derived from the Corvette. Other Cadillacs during this time were switching platforms and becoming front-wheel drive and being more roundy and stuff. They also had the North Star in them, but not the Fleetwood, which is why I think this car is so respected.
From boulevard to highway, the 1994 Fleetwood creates higher standards of elegance, distinction, and power.
Lincoln Town Car, Cartier or Cartier. Oh man, I don't know how you say it. I think it depends where you're from and who you are. I'm gonna say Cartier for this video.
I'm looking for something a little... Not so tight in the shoulders. Yeah. Looser in the hips.
Definitely, yes.
A little less constricting in the legs.
Oh yeah.
I may have just what you're looking for.
This would be Lincoln's third generation of the town car name, and with that we are moving away from the traditional boxy styling of the 80s and 90s and moving to a more rounded approach, as really everybody was. The Cartier trim was the top-notch level for the town car, and this trim would run from 1981 until 2003 when the name was discontinued for the Ultimate L and later Signature L. Basically, you got all the bells and whistles along with special badging. There's really not much to say about this car, and I don't mean to offend anyone, but it's not all that special. I mean, the Panther platform is great, we have rear-wheel drive, a big V8, but I just gotta cut this entry short. Yet another G platform car, the Cadillac Seville STS.
I invite you to preview a car that has captured the attention of the world. The all-new Seville STS. The all-new Seville is a completely re-engineered and redesigned performance luxury sedan.
Two trim levels were offered, the SLS and STS. This was Seville's more sporty package with loads of interior options that was highly advanced during its time. One notable feature was Cadillac's night vision system. They used infrared technology to enhance nighttime visibility, and this package was a lot of money. Also with the STS, you got an extra 25 horsepower from the base level, thanks to the 4.6 Northstar engine, which we all know and love. While super unreliable, 300 horsepower wasn't bad at all. However, that power was sent straight to the front wheels. Cadillac was really changing its game during the late 90s, and as I mentioned earlier, the Fleetwood was truly a Cadillac. But as time went on, the Cadillac name wasn't really what it used to be. Cadillac Alante. I'm sure we are all familiar with this sales disaster. Cadillac again was in this rough patch, competing with the imports, and they wanted to come out with something amazing, essentially like the Chrysler TC by Maserati. They signed up with an Italian company who is quite reputable. I don't even want to try and pronounce the name, but what they did was build and painted the body of the Alante. Over its 7-year production run, 21,430 units were sold. This car was so expensive for what you got, and this was the first and only year where the Alante finally got power. See, the first 2 years, it only had 140 horsepower and was bumped up to like 200 in the 90s, and finally in 93 we got the Northstar that produced 295. But if you got a 93 Alante, this is where GM started cutting the costs. They removed the Bose sound system for GM's premium Symphony sound system and removed the Recaro seats for cheaper ones, and the lighting module was also taken out. It's a good looking car that was way ahead of its time, just the marketing aspect of it completely failed. Dodge Viper GTS, finally a non-luxury sedan, rather a true American sports car. The Dodge Viper is so iconic and unique. How can you not like this car? For the second generation of the Viper, Dodge decided to remove the side exhaust pipes and relocate them to the back. If you ask me, it's probably best. If I recall, a lot of people burned themselves because of this design, and if you could care less about this new safety feature, the new exhaust system improved power. And power we have thanks to the Viper's 8-liter naturally aspirated V10, 450 horsepower, made it to a 6-speed manual transmission. And I also believe Lamborghini helped create part of this engine or design it, but I could be wrong. AC, power windows, and door locks were now standard for the Viper. The prior generation did not have these amenities. Really goes to show that the Viper wasn't a luxury sports car, it was a track beast. The Dodge Viper is a dream car of mine, probably not the second generation, but man, it would be nice to have one of these things. Corvette ZR1. This was GM's 4th generation of the Corvette, and the ZR1 name would last 6 years from 1990 to 1995. Over those years, just 6,900 units were sold, and these low sales numbers weren't because it was a bad car. If anything, the Corvette ZR1 took the world by surprise, handling better than the European competition. 0 to 60 in just 4.5 seconds respectively. LT5 5.7 V8 that was designed in conjunction with Lotus, a name that hasn't been brought to this channel ever, and Mercury Marine, 405 horsepower and 380 foot-pounds of torque in 1995. Absolutely insane numbers. Here's the thing, you could almost buy 2 LT1s for the same price, but you did get a lot of car, and to this day the ZR1s hold their value very well. Our last entry is the Vector W8, a car that I've never heard of, and that really goes to show how old I am. They only made 22 of these cars, sadly, and the goal for this company was to be the supercar brand of America, to compete with Ferrari and Lamborghini. They had so much potential. Many kids at the time had posters of this car on their wall, but sadly they failed. The Vector W8 produced 625 horsepower from its 6-liter V8, which was a heavily modified Corvette engine at the time, and they stuck some twin turbos on it. 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds with a top speed of around 220 miles per hour. Very insane numbers for the time. And somehow the cockroach of a brand that GM is, they stuck their 3-speed automatic transmission in this thing. But it was a great transmission from what I've heard of. It is now time for the tier list. This is where things get very controversial. In F tier, we have the Chrysler TC by Maserati. I mean, come on, really. In D tier, we have nothing. C tier, we have quite a few cars, and let me just clarify, C tier means it's an average car. It's not amazing, but it's not like, I'm not calling these cars bad in any means. We have the Park Avenue Ultra, the Cadillac Alante, Town Car Cartier, and the Cadillac STS. In B tier, we have the Cadillac Fleetwood Brougham. I'm telling you, man, I mean, that thing is just different. In A tier, we have the Aurora. I like Oldsmobile, and that's really biased of me to say that, but when I was doing research on the Aurora, I was looking at a lot of reviews, and they just love this car, and I feel like it's very unique. So A tier for the Aurora. And in S tier, we have the Dodge Viper GTS, Corvette 01, and Vector W8. Thank you so much for watching. I understand that this video was a little bit longer, but I wanted to do 10 cars instead of 5. How do we like this format? Should I keep doing it? Let me know. I just started college, so I'm battling that now. So wish me luck. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.